Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're taking a look at all the mini expansion cards. They have all been officially revealed and should be releasing sometime tomorrow for memory, looking at it. Well, tomorrow for me, different times based on different time zones of the world. So, of course, getting right into this, we have 17 new cards, plenty of tokens. I think in total I have 26 images, of which 25 are actually cards or tokens. So that's pretty good helping of new variety of cards and options that are going to be available. So the first one here is the Untrue God, a 5-drop 3/3 legendary for Havencraft. Fanfare. Put a random Havencraft amulet that costs X play points from your deck into play. Activates its fanfare effects, excluding choose and targeted effects. Then put a random Havencraft amulet that costs Y play points from your deck into play. Activate its fanfare effects, excluding choose and target effects. X and Y equal 4 split randomly. So that potentially could give you 2 and 2, obviously. So that's actually a little confusing. X and Y equals 4 split randomly. So I'm guessing the number 4, which would be 2 and 2, surely. But wouldn't you just say X and wouldn't you just make it a double effect? I don't know. Interesting, not 100% sure, but I do know that they did give us a frequently asked questions for this card, which of course is, if an amulet with enhance comes into play using an Dragoose's effect, will it activate? And the simple answer is no, as enhance effects don't take place in that kind of way, so that makes sense. So it has to be played for its original enhance cost, of course, so pretty straightforward. Then we have Puppet Troupemaster, a 3-drop 2/2 for Portalcraft, gold. Fanfare, put a puppet into your hand. Evolve, put 30 puppets into your deck. Give your leader the following effect: at the end of your turn, draw a card. This effect is not stackable and lasts for the rest of the match. So massing out your deck with puppets could be interesting. It's definitely got some potential in the long run. Obviously you would need some pretty heavy draw power set up in the early game. This is good though, it does give you an extra draw each turn, which is going to guarantee you a lot of cards, but has some good potential and would like to see it played at least. Then we have a Doublame would be a good way to say it, I think. Duke and Dame, a 2-drop 2/2 gold for Bloodcraft. Fanfare, if vengeance is active for you, choose. Put either a Peckish Owlcat or Leopardian into your hand. And basically the same with the Evo, and since they are choose, it's nice that you get to pick. So the Peckish Owlcat is a 2-drop 1/2 token card with Ward, Fanfare, destroy an enemy follower with 1 attack or defense. Actually quite nice that you get the varying attack and defense options, so it does clear a lot more followers. And has its okay body itself, so not too bad for a 2-drop off the 2-drop. So you can actually get some decent value out of those two alone. And the Leopardian is actually a 2-drop 2/1 Storm, so again, good value. The only real downside is that you have to be in Vengeance, although there are some decent Vengeance activators now, so getting either of these shouldn't be that difficult. Then we have Ruinous Dragon, a 5-drop 5/5 Dragoncraft card. A Fanfare, put a Lightning Blast into your hand. If Overflow is active for you, subtract 1 from the cost of that card. So putting a Lightning Blast seems pretty average. I'm actually not a big fan of this card. If Lightning Blast was unnerfed, this thing would be broken as hell, as you could play Lightning Blast reasonably easily and get it into your hand reasonably easily, especially in rotation. So if we see the Lightning Blast unnerfed, this card could potentially be pretty crazy. Then we have Colossal Skull-Lord, a 7-drop 6/6 legendary for Shadowcraft. It is a Machina card, so that's pretty cool. A Machina is going to be great, as at the end of turn, deal 3 damage to all non-Machina cards. Well, all followers, sorry. Makes sense, pretty straightforward, good board clear. As a Machina card is going to be good. And then we have a 6-drop 6/6 legendary for Bloodcraft, also a Machina card. It's going to be pretty great, I think, overall. Fanfare, if you have at least 7 other cards in your hand, gain Drain. Fanfare, if you have 3 to 5 other Machina cards in your hand, gain Rush. If you have at least 6 other cards in your hand, gain Storm. So this has nice variation. You can get potentially a massive body with Drain, which looks good. Overall, it should be pretty easy to get the Drain effect. The other effects become a little harder unless you set your whole deck around it, which I think Blood's leaning towards that fairly heavily now, so definitely a pretty good card as a 6-drop. Then we have the Solomon, Lord of Magic, a 2-drop, a 2/2 Runecraft card. Put a Seal of Solomon into your hand, subtract X from its cost. X equals the number of times this card has been spell boosted. So more spell boost support, which is nice. So Seal of Solomon is a 7-drop spell card, which you could potentially get to 0. Randomly put one of the highest cost followers that cost X play points or less from your deck into your hand and change its cost to 0. X equals the number of times this card has been spell boost. So randomly putting one of the highest cost followers is okay. Potentially you could abuse that really heavily with some pretty interesting combinations of cards with something like Chimera and things like that, where you could lower its cost to 0 and give it X equals the number of times it's spell boosted. So, I don't know, Unbodied Witch is one that a lot of people have spotted, and I think that could be really interesting, but definitely going to be a fun little card to try out. So, Sonia, Protector of Hope, is a 4-drop 4/4 Havencraft. It is a base ward, so that's okay. It does have that, at least, ward ability up. Then it's got Fanfare Enhanced 7, gain a +3/+3, and the following effect: cannot be destroyed by spells and effects. Of course, can be destroyed from damage by spells and effects, cannot be targeted by enemy spells and effects. So, it's basically only going to be killable by AoE spell and effects based on that, because of course it can only take damage in that way. And that's going to be pretty much it. I also believe that, based on the Evo, that it can't be targeted by enemy spells and effects. That's not part of the fanfare effect, which should be obvious looking at the way it's laid out. So the cannot be destroyed is only part of the fanfare, making it not a bad card, but not a crazy good card either. I think it could be more interesting overall. And it's not, like I said, it's not bad. It works well in the kind of Satan slot, since it is a nice 7-drop. And that's really all I can think of for that one. Then we have Azod, Duke of Mists, so it's a 7-drop 3/4 Swordcraft Commander Gold. Accelerate 2, randomly summon a Lilje, Butler of Mists, or a Xian, Maid of Mists. Fanfare, deal 2 damage to all enemy followers. So, not bad if you were using it just as a straight up clear card, although of course it's not a high stat, but it is a commander, so it has that going for it, which isn't too bad at all. And of course, one of its token cards, or summon cards, Butler of Mists, is a 2-drop 2/1 officer, ward last word. I've got to get the right naming scheme going on now. It's early morning when I'm making this, so forgive me for any errors. Put an Azul, Duke of Mists, without Accelerate into your hand. So you can basically actually recover from that pretty easily, which is nice. I'm guessing, yeah, Xian, Maid of Mists has the same ability, so instead of being, of course, a 2/1 ward, it is a 1/2 Bane. I wish they were the other way around personally, but that's just me. And it retains the same last word, so you can actually get multiple Dukes of Mists, which is really handy. Of course, they do lose their Accelerate, so you're only playing them as a 7-drop, but may have some potential in the Discard Unlimited deck, since you're never going to really be losing a card too much, and could be potential board slots, so that's not too bad. And then we have Lord of the Various Vajano, Marsh. I'm not really sure how you would pronounce that at all, but effort. 8-drop 6/6 legendary for Forestcraft. So it does have Ambush, Fanfare, give your leader the following effect. During your turn, whenever an effect returns one or more cards to a player's hand, deal X damage to the enemy leader. X equals 2 times the number of cards that are left to play. This effect is not stackable and lasts the rest of the match. So really interesting. Really interesting. Opening up the potential for mass followers, especially since it has an evolve, return an enemy follower to the opponent's hand, so you can actually get a little bit of value. So whenever an effect returns, one or more cards to a player's hand, so it can be any. So I've got some interesting ideas for combinations. There is a card in Forest, blanking on the name right this second, but it does allow you to return every single card on the board to the respective player's hands, meaning you could potentially maximize this card for a pretty comfortable 20 damage, provided both players had a full board. That could be absolutely nuts. Obviously, pulling that off is not super easy and would not be something that would be, that likely to happen, but has some potential and is very interesting and would be something I'd love to do. So definitely respectably interesting card for Forestcraft. Don't know if it will end up being that great since it is a high cost. If this was 6, then it would have some potential, but as an 8 cost, feels a little heavy. Then we have Swordflash Panther, a 5-drop 4/5 Sword Commander Legendary. During your turn, when this card is added to your hand from your deck, Reveal it, then give +1 to a random allied follower. So that's okay, that's actually interesting. Reveal it, then give, that's a kind of a new mechanic design that we're getting. Reveal a card to give an effect. Interesting. Fanfare, evolve another allied follower whose attack or defense has been increased by a spell or effect. Evolve effects will not activate for that follower. So that's actually pretty cool as well. It's another free evo effect for Sword. 5-drop 4/5 is pretty okay, and its base effect isn't bad. We've got plenty of draw power in Sword now, and we've got some decent buff cards as well, especially in Unlimited, where this card could probably really shine, so definitely piques my interest as a Swordcraft card. Then we have a Clarke, Knowing Seeker, so it is a 10-drop 2/3 Runecraft card. Insane card as far as stats go, Jesus. Accelerate 2, summon an Earth Essence, put a Verdict Ritual into your hand, so you're probably going to be mostly playing this as its Accelerate, I would gather, but it does have an okay fanfare effect for its base effect, and that is recover 10 play points, so you can play this for free, and it gets, of course, Earthright, banish all cards in your hand, then draw 9 cards, so it will completely refresh your hand. Potentially in Earthrune, this could have some okay balance for it, especially with the Accelerate effect. The only real difficulty is the fact that you will have to push till turn 10, meaning you're going to be playing a purely control style deck to really get there, which really could potentially throw it out of whack, so that could be a little disappointing, but it could work actually really well with the new legendary card. Potentially getting this for 0 and then using its fanfare to recover 10 play points would be absolutely insane. Even if you don't have 10 play points for free, you could potentially just restart your turn and still get the Earthright banish all cards effect. So there is some synergy between this card and the other new rune cards, so very interesting. And we have Grimnir, Warring Tempest, a 3-drop 2/3 gold for neutral ward. Fanfare, enhance 7, deal X damage to all enemy followers. X equals the number of times that allied followers have evolved this match. Not a huge fan of this card, to be honest. It does seem pretty reasonable, but I think if this card hit face, it would be 100% better. It would be a reasonably costed Enhanced 7 effect, with dealing X damage to all enemy followers is a pretty basic board clear. At best, you could potentially, depending on the deck you're putting this into, of course, something like Blood could probably pull this off at somewhere between 6 evos and 9 evos, so you could potentially have a 6 to 9 clear. Most decks, you're probably looking at averaging somewhere around the 4 to 5 evos marks now, with a lot of the evo effects. So it's not a bad board clear, it just seems like it could do a lot better if it was hitting face, since that would be a much more interesting effect then. Then we have Dagon, Lord of Seas. It is a 10-drop 10/10 Dragoncraft legendary. Cannot take more than 4 damage at a time, so survives at least 3 attacks minimum in that case, and can attack 3 times per turn. An interesting card. I would love to see it played. I feel like it would be really awkward to get it out since you can't really easily give it Storm these days. And the fact that you can't do that makes it really hard to use it as any kind of turn 10 win condition. Outside of that, though, it is very interesting. It can't take damage, more than 4 damage at a time is good, but it will be killed by pretty much any spell and effect, as far as just straight up destruction goes, and that's a little disappointing. Hellfire Hound, a 4-drop 4/4 gold Shadowcraft card, a fanfare enhanced 7, gain the ability to evolve for 0 evolution points, that's pretty decent honestly, giving the ability to evolve for free, so it can instantly become a 6/6, so it's 7-drop 6/6 basically, within Evolve Necromancy 6. It also gains the following effect: at the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to a random enemy follower 4 times, so gets potential damaging effects out. Definitely interesting, not a huge fan of the card. If you're playing it as a straight up Evolve effect with Necromancy 6, you're losing a lot of Necromancy. In Unlimited, probably not great. In Rotation, I'm not sure how you could incorporate it, but I mean, I love the artwork. The effect is at least somewhat interesting and is a free Evolve, so definitely piques some interest, but I just can't see where it could really slot in and be played. Then we have Milolo, we'll go with that. Little Mountain Lass. It is a 3-drop 2/2 gold for Forestcraft, of course. When you play a spell, evolve this follower. Very straight up Evo. That's pretty good. I mean, you could play this with a 1-drop spell pretty easily, so on turn 4, potentially evolve 2 followers, get some decent value and trade up, would be the way I'd go about it. Then we have the big Portalcraft legendary for this mini expansion is the main antagonist for all of Gears of Rebellion. It is going to be the Baphomet, Lord of Aiolon. Aiolon, I'm always really bad at pronunciation. Not my strong suit, not that it matters. It is a 6-drop 6/6 of course, that of course follows the Machina trait line, and it has a fanfare, banish all Machina cards from your deck, put X, we'll just call it phone, we'll call it Y, I don't know, dissonance, and Z, indignance. That's probably the easiest way for me to go with those names. Either way, into your deck, X, Y, and Z equal the number of Machina cards banished from your deck, split randomly. So you're basically just going to be replacing any Machina cards in your deck with those 3 cards in some form. It does have Evolve, put a random Machina card from your deck into your hand, so you can get one basically straight in your hand, which is nice. And being a 6-drop 6/6 is actually okay. Of course, that does mean you're going to want to support these with some spell and effects pretty decently, so definitely keep that in mind in Portalcraft, or just with other Portal cards in general. So of course, it still has the trait Machina, and as all these will, so I'm not going to mention that much anymore, but all of them do follow the 8-drop stat line, so that's going to be awkward. It is an 8-drop 8/7 rush, can attack 2 times per turn. Whenever this follower attacks an enemy follower, deal X damage to the follower before it can deal any damage in return. X equals this follower's attack, so it's basically a free trade, similar to Odin. Kind of interesting. Really love their artwork. I was wondering when these cards would make an appearance. Then we have Dissonant, which is the 8-drop 7/7. At the end of your turn, summon 2 assembly droids. Whenever another allied Machina follower comes into play, give it +3/+3, effectively giving you 2 4/4s. This is pretty much a board flood one. Really cool. This is one I would probably try and get more often than not. The Rush one is okay as well, but this one I think filling your board could be much more dangerous. Then of course we have the 8-drop 5/11, which is pretty nuts. It is a Bane, so it should kill off at least a couple of followers most likely. Fanfare, deal 5 damage to a random enemy follower, and then deal 6 damage to the enemy leader. That Fanfare effect I think is the big one. Being able to deal 6 to the enemy leader could potentially close out the game very quickly. Of course, this whole deck structure is actually reasonably slow. If you optimally played the main card, Baphomet, on 6, you still can't play any of these until 8, and that makes them a little awkward. You definitely want to have a turn 7 play lined up, or some other way to potentially get some damage in before that, to really cripple your opponent. So definitely interesting, has some good potential of synergy with other cards that Portal already has. Definitely would like to see this at least played. It could be interesting, and definitely one I'm probably going to try out, as it could be a lot of fun. So that is going to, of course, wrap up all the cards for the mini expansion. Of course, there are only 17 cards. A lot of the cards we looked at are token cards. As mentioned on the card, this is a token card, as you can see in this one. And that's really it. There's nothing else to really talk about. The expansion will launch tomorrow. It's going to be, of course, added to Steel Rebellion, as they always are, so expect them to just go straight into their packs. Until next time, guys, see ya.